Hey, this is John Broadwell from Broadwell Consulting Incorporated. I'm an embedded systems developer and medical device development consultant. If you need help with one of those items, give me a call. So today we're going to be looking at how I organize my hobby and serial wombat based parts for my professional parts that I use on professional projects paid by customers. I store those a little bit different. I'm cognizant of static concerns and things like that. But this is basically for a lot of the junk that I buy off of AliExpress or parts that I get myself for DigiKey just to mess around with. So, the title of this video was Stop Sorting Your Electronic Parts. Well, obviously that's one of those fun inflammatory type YouTube video titles. We're not saying not to organize your parts, but the problem you immediately run into is if I sort parts, what do I sort them by? If it's an LED, do I sort it by package size? Do I sort it by color? Immediately what you find is that you're trying to sort things in 2 or 3 dimensions or more. A resistor, do I sort it by value? Do I sort it by package? Do I sort it by power? There's at least 3 variations there, and then you get into things like precision. So it doesn't really work that well. So what I would like to show you is what I've done that's worked really good for me. I stopped trying to sort things at all. I just put them in containers. And then I have a spreadsheet that I keep that helps me keep track of where everything is. And that's worked really, really good for me because the spreadsheet is highly searchable. And in some cases, I also keep track roughly of quantity to know when I have to reorder things. So first of all, I have essentially 4 different categories of stuff. The most numerous are things that I do that fit into a container. And these are 6 Dram medical containers. And these are my favorite things to put parts in. They tend to be about the right size for a lot of different things. They don't take up that much space. And Brother makes label printers. You can get a nice 1-inch label circle that goes on the top and side that I use to organize these. Once I have my parts inside of these, then I put them into a holder that I created using cardboard and a laser cutter, and those in turn go into one of these Sterilite containers. So at the end of this video, we'll cut out and put together one of those holders just for fun, and there's links down below to where you can get the SVG files to cut those out if you're interested yourself on a laser. Probably a lot of other ways to do it as well. So that's the first category, stuff that's small enough to fit into one of these labels or into one of these vials. And so, for instance, some stuff is very straightforward that way, like 0603, 0805 parts go naturally in there. Some of the other stuff, like for instance, my, keyboard jacks, only a handful of those will fit into one of these containers. Looks like I've got 3 in one of my containers and 2 in the other. If you find yourself in that situation, use 2 different containers that have sequential numbers. And so let's talk just real quick about the columns that I use in my spreadsheet. First, vial number. Every time I create a new vial, it gets a new vial number. If I run out of something and decide to delete that line out of my spreadsheet, I keep the vial number and I can reassign it to something else. That way I don't have to move all of my different vials around in the holder. Secondly, if you have more of a part that you want to store in a vial than you have space, like for instance, we were looking at looks like I've got these 10 nanofarad disc capacitors. I had a bunch of those that wouldn't fit. Go ahead and put it in 2 sequentially numbered vials. You may be inclined to say, oh, I'll give it the same number since it's the same part. The problem is then when you go and you put your vials into one of these holders, if you want to put 2 of the same number, now you have to shift everybody down, and that's a major annoyance. So it's fine to have 2 of them as long as you keep your, or 3 or 4 or whatever makes you happy, to keep your spreadsheet straight. Second of all, don't try to save vials. Like for instance, you can see on AliExpress here at one point, I got a gear motor, with an encoder. These are really good for PID control and, other robotics stuff. And it turns out, looking at my quantity, only one of those will fit in a vial. But I went ahead and used up 2 vials. And that's because that's a better use of space in my workshop than using up one of the drawers, which I'll talk about later. So that's about it. Let's take a look real quick at the columns that I set up. This has been useful for me. The vial number, the size, then I have both a short name and a description. The description is typically something that I'll cut and paste from wherever I bought it from or the data sheet. It's fairly verbose, long words. The short one is used on the vial. So it's just a couple of words that are enough that when I look at the vial, if I'm not looking at the spreadsheet, I can see where it is. Because some of my parts that I use a lot, I know are, oh yeah, I know it's in this drawer. I'll just look for it real quick. Then I don't have to bring up the spreadsheet. Unit, this is useful. Excel has the ability to filter by unit. And so if I go to data, filter, and I want to just look at capacitors, I could say, okay, I'm interested in picofarad and microfarad and nanofarad. Okay, now I could see here's the capacitors that came right up to the top, and looks like I had blank in there too. But anyway, so that's a useful category. Value, in this case it's a 1 microfarad or 100 nanofarad. Obviously, you want to be able to do that. Picture, this helps me a lot when I'm looking for something. So like if I said, oh, I'm looking for those motors, I don't have to search, or if it's something that's hard to describe, I can look through there and say, oh yeah, that's the one that I want. Oh, here's my motors. I can see these pictures. In a lot of cases, those are just, places where I hit copy and then paste off of the website where I bought them. When did I buy them? Is the order date. Where did I get them? I got this from DigiKey, or I got it from AliExpress or Newark or whatever. If there's a DigiKey number or a Newark number, I'll put it there. If not, or instead, like with the AliExpress stuff, sometimes I'll put the URL. There's no guarantee that you'll be able to use it again later, but there's that. So, and then some of this stuff was old before I tracked all this stuff. That's just marked old. And then sometimes it's useful to say, oh, why did I buy this? Well, like, for instance, there's a project that I worked on that was my son's Fortnite chest. You can look at that. And so if I want to go back and find a bunch of the parts that were associated with that I bought specifically for that project, it's nice to have them labeled that way. So those are my various categories for that. Not everything fits in a vial. So next up from that are my drawers. And my drawers are basically these organizers that you can buy at the hardware store or at Walmart or whatever. And for those, I have similar columns, but I don't have the short description. For those, I just make individual labels one at a time I just make individual labels one at a time as I label them, because this is a much smaller group. So for these, it could be something like, okay, these don't fit in a vial. Like for instance, this ESP8266, that's not going to fit in a vial. These particular terminal blocks might fit in a vial, but it looks like I bought about 300 of them. So in that case, I'm just going to dump them in a drawer. These long headers wouldn't fit in a vial. These boards don't fit in a vial. And again, it's critically important that I put these pictures in here so that I can actually find the stuff I'm looking for. Some of the stuff like this goes into another set of holders that just that's not these little drawers. It's bigger drawers. Just lots of different useful parts. And where do I put them? And so again, when did I buy them? A link to get them again, who'd I get them from, and then the location. Okay, this one is in the container that's attached to my desk on the upper right, and it's drawer number 1. And is that drawer one of the large drawers or one of the small drawers? Basically just quickly helping me find that particular part. I've also done that with some of my hardware stuff. I've got a separate one that's just for nuts and bolts and things like that. Then I've got a couple of drawers that are some pneumatic stuff. I had fun working with some control stuff on pneumatics for a bit. So that's that. Sometimes I'll have projects put together, and I got these boxes from Walmart. They're called pen and gear boxes, and they're designed to hold 3x5 or 4x6 index cards. And you can see in there, it's a great place to throw a breadboard and some wires, because you can put it in there without crushing it down too hard. This particular project is just one of those encoder motors that's also hooked up with a N-channel FET and some connectors to plug into a power supply. So I have a standby thing that I can play with PID control or whatever with, just in one of these containers. I love these things because they stack and they hold, and they have these nice clips. I also use these containers a lot when I travel, either for pleasure or business, because they go really, really well into my checked luggage. And I'll put a piece of masking tape on here to make sure those don't pop open. So I, really, really like that. And then beyond that, I have a couple of drawers that are for really big stuff, and that stuff I tend to remember where I put it. If I end up with enough of those drawers, then eventually I'll probably get a new one. So, but that's the extent. That's how I organize all of my various parts. And take a look down below. You can see a link to the SVG files for the vial holder that we're about to see now. And if you take a look up above, you'll see a link to a video that explains how to take this spreadsheet. We take this set of columns and do a merge into a database CSV file that's easily printed out on that brother printer. So that's about all I have for today. If you like the videos, definitely hit like. Recommend you subscribe if you like embedded systems stuff and hints and examples, or if you're one of my Serial Wombat community people, definitely hit that so that you can find out more about that project. So that's all I have for today. Have fun and keep making stuff. The Serial Wombat firmware is available on GitHub and is constantly being updated. Subscribe below so that you can see the latest features and videos that come out as we fix bugs and add new features. The Serial Wombat open source project was created by Broadwell Consulting Incorporated. Broadwell Consulting Incorporated provides help developing medical devices with a focus on developing embedded firmware, which is compliant with IEC 62304, ISO 14971, and ISO 13485, as well as remediation assistance for products already in production. For more information, contact John at Broadwell Consulting. Support requests for Serial Wombat should be sent to help@serialwombat.com and will be answered on an as-available basis. Also, feel free to leave your question in the comments below.